Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another trailer reaction video. Carrying on the live streams right now. I just got done with one for the Black Widow trailer. We're on to James Bond now. There he is. He is back. Daniel Craig is back in his fifth and final installment as the character of James Bond. This is the 25th film in the James Bond franchise, No Time to Die. The first trailer came out today, and I'm about to give a live trailer reaction on it and a bit of a discussion as well. Full disclosure, I'm not the biggest James Bond fan in the entire world. I do enjoy James Bond. I do respect him as a legacy character and a character that will continue for many, many decades, hopefully to come, and will hopefully stay a guy. James Bond is, he is a historic film character. He is a very important character in film history, especially he is the quintessential spy character, the quintessential espionage character like that. And Daniel Craig has definitely he has served his tenure well as James Bond. I will say I'm not a massive fan of Daniel Craig's Bond, however. My favorite James Bond film of all time that I've seen is Casino Royale. Love that movie to death, but I'll be the first to admit that Daniel Craig isn't my favorite Bond. We've all got a favorite Bond, whoever it happens to be, whether it's one of the old timers, whether it's Brosnan, hey, maybe it is Daniel Craig. This is a discussion, as I say, so if you're watching this and you're commenting, please do get commenting and let me know who your favorite James Bond is. Is it Sean Connery? Is it Brosnan? Is it Timothy Dalton? Whoever it happens to be, please do get commenting and let me know. Socials, Facebook, you've got /CinemaSavvy. You've got Twitter at @cinema_savvy. And Instagram is also at @cinema_savvy as well. This movie, No Time to Die, has had a very, very troubled production. It's been 5 years since Spectre came out. I can't believe it's been that long. Am I right in saying that? Has it been 5 years? So by the time that No Time to Die comes out, which is April of 2020, it will have been 5 years since Spectre came out. That time has just gone like that. I don't know about you guys. Spectre wasn't, it was a hit. It made 880 million at the box office, so it definitely made a lot of money, just shy of Skyfall's 1.1 billion. That also had the 50th anniversary of Bond going for it at the time that movie came out. So Sam Mendes isn't returning to direct this movie. He did direct Skyfall and Spectre respectively, but he didn't return for this one. So the production of this movie has been like a roller coaster. So I know that there have been numerous directors attached to this thing. I know that Denis Villeneuve, director of Blade Runner 2049, Prisoners, other great movies, he was attached to it for a while, and then that fell through. There was another 2 directors, I believe, around that time that were also mentioned, but the biggest one was Danny Boyle. Danny Boyle was attached to direct this movie, and that's actually a take that I would have really been interested to see. I'm a big fan of Danny Boyle's work. Not all of it's great, but he's always a very interesting filmmaker, and he's a very varied filmmaker as well, and I would have loved to have seen what he could have done with the James Bond character. However, he parted ways due to creative differences with the studio. There were some rumors that came out as to what that reason was, but I don't know if they've sort of been poo-pooed at this point and it's not happening. I heard in an article, I can't corroborate the article or even tell you what the article was, but I did see it somewhere that Danny Boyle wanted to kill off the character of Bond at the end of that movie, and the studio stepped in and said, we don't want you to do that. You're not killing off the character. And I think he'd gone and written a brand new script for it as well. And I heard that was the reason that he parted ways. They just were butting heads. They couldn't see eye to eye with it, and he left. And then the title got released, No Time to Die, and I thought, is that a connection maybe? And then they drafted in the director of this movie in a very, very short amount of time. The director, and I really hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, is Kerry Joji Fukunaga. He's a director who has done a couple of films I've seen. I know he did the first It film, the 2017 It film. Sorry, he was the writer on the 2017 It film. In terms of directing, he's done Beast of No Nation from 2015 and Jane Eyre, with Michael Fassbender in 2011. That's pretty much all I've seen, in all honesty. It seems like they were scrambling for a director and they just grabbed the first person they could find. I'm sure he's a fantastic director and I really hope this movie's good. but I've not been a fan of the Daniel Craig Bond films. As I said, Casino Royale I thought was fantastic. It had the great villain. It had the memorable set pieces. I wasn't keen on Daniel Craig as Bond, but that film as a whole, I really, really very much did enjoy. And then we got Quantum of Solace, which I think a lot of people will agree is one of the worst Bond films. I'm sure it has its fans out there, but it felt more like an answer to what Matt Damon was doing at the time as the character of Jason Bourne. And the way that was shot as well with the action, it felt more like a Jason Bourne film, like a standalone action movie with Daniel Craig in it, rather than a James Bond film. It didn't feel like a James Bond film. And it's still the only James Bond film that I've seen once. And maybe I'll go back to it at some point if I do a marathon. Maybe we'll do marathon reviews of all the James Bond films on this channel. It's actually a shame we don't have George on the channel right now, because he is the resident James Bond fan. He knows a lot more about the history and production of Bond than me. And I'd be very interested to hear what he thinks on this trailer as well. Skyfall came out, and I know that a lot of people lift that up as one of the best James Bond films. Again, I wasn't a massive fan of that. It felt like, certainly with that movie and Sam Mendes' take on it, it went more of a kind of Christopher Nolan route, where it was very bleak, it was very stark, it was very humorless for the most part. It really kind of was, and it didn't feel like a James Bond film. With a James Bond film, it has a very, very certain set of criteria. You need the Bond girl, you need the Bond theme, you need the fancy car, you need the gadgets, and of course you need James Bond. That is essentially your criteria for each movie. You could argue that with James Bond, they've made the same movie what will be 25 times. It's a formula. It very much is a formula, and it works because of that. And it keeps it interesting as well. It's very much like Doctor Who in that, you know, you rotate out the lead actor every now and then, a couple of the companions and everything like that, but it more or less is pretty much the same premise. And it's a premise that you can just run with for decades, as they've proved already. But the tone, the Sam Mendes tone, just didn't work for me. I can appreciate that some people might like that. They might like the sort of more gritty, realistic Bond, but that's not Bond to me. Bond needs to be fun. It needs to be kind of campy a little bit. And maybe I'm sort of harkening back to the Roger Moore days and the Sean Connery days, even the Brosnan era. Like, my God, are you kidding me? Like, Die Another Day, that was so campy and over the top. But that's kind of what Bond is to me. And actually, if we're talking modern spy films and modern action secret agent films, I think that the recent few Mission Impossible films have easily surpassed the last couple of Bond films, in my opinion. You know, Rogue Nation, Mission Impossible Fallout, even Ghost Protocol, I think much more fun. Yes, the James Bond films have that more team dynamic, whereas James Bond is kind of like, you know, the solo guy with the Bond girl going off on an adventure of some kind. But the last two really haven't done it for me. Spectre as well, I thought was one of the most boring cinematic experiences of my life. I loved Christoph Waltz's Blofeld in that movie, who's actually returning for this film. To what degree, I don't know. The main villain is dubbed as Rami Malek. It makes sense. He just, you know, hot off the heels on Bohemian Rhapsody. He was a very popular. He won the Oscar, for God's sake, for Best Lead Actor. It makes sense that they'd want to try and snap him up. So I'm very interested to see what he's going to bring to the character of Safin, who's the main villain of this film. You've got returning cast members as well. Ralph Fiennes as M. You've got Naomi Harris as Moneypenny. You've got Ben Whishaw as Q as well, and it does list Christoph Waltz on here as Blofeld, so I'm sure he's going to be... Oh, I am playing my own stream. So sorry about the echo there, guys. We're going to get to the trailer now. Very, very quickly, I'm just going to read out Claudia's comments right there. She writes, Roger Moore is still my favorite because I grew up watching him. Some of my fondest memories are watching James Bond movies with my uncle, so Moore is my guy. I know a lot of people that love Roger Moore as well. I think the hot-on favorite is Sean Connery. You know, he's the first, that moment where he goes like, Bond, James Bond. It's so iconic to film. But I do love Roger Moore as well. It felt like a good progression from Connery's. And, you know, I think when Daniel Craig brings out his movie, I don't know if he will have tied with Roger Moore for most films that he's made. I'm going to have to go through that actually and double check that. But as far as I'm aware, Roger Moore is still the longest serving Bond. I think Roger Moore probably had more movies, but I think that Daniel Craig has probably stayed with the character for the longest, obviously, because you've had multiple years between movies, as opposed to how quickly they used to crank them out back in the day. Claudia says, though, having said that, I do like Daniel Craig quite a lot. People trash Quantum of Solace, but boy, is it better than Spectre. I will need to go back and watch Quantum of Solace before I watch Spectre. As I said, I've only seen Quantum of Solace once. I think Spectre I watched twice. And it was vastly inferior the second time I watched it compared to the first time I watched Spectre. But Quantum of Solace, I'll probably, go back. I remember some of the action being fine. I remember the opening car chase being incredibly memorable and really kind of edge of your seat stuff. Spectre really didn't have much. It had the opening one shot of the movie, Dia de los Muertos, and that was about it. And then it had some kind of random plot with Blofeld, and I know that he had a meteor and he was Bond his brother or something. I don't know. It was kind of bad and it's infinitely forgettable. Not to mention the really, really with Moriarty from BBC Sherlock, the whole side quest thing about surveillance technology and the subplot with Moneypenny and M. It's just didn't like it. Right, so we are going to get to the trailer right now. So I'm just going to get it all queued up. So yeah, I'm hoping this is good. Like, I want like a good, solid Bond movie again. I really, really do. So I'm going to bring this up now. I always say this, but the audio will be playing from my computer and will be picked up on the mic. So hopefully it doesn't cut in and out. Hopefully the levels are okay. And with all that being said, I'm going to click play now.
Why would I betray you?
We all have our secrets.
Oh, she's following on from the previous one, right?
The world is arming faster than we can respond. Where's 007?
Oh, he's just... Oh, is that the Hans Zimmer music in the background? You've got the Hans Zimmer... You've got like the Man of Steel drums.
You would go below.
2 years. So stay in your lane. You get in my way, I will put a bullet in your knee.
Oh, this was the big controversy, wasn't it? This was...
I thought you two would get along.
This was the controversy that there was going to be a female Bond. James Bond.
So you're not dead. Hello, Q. I've missed you. It's the most valuable asset this country has. If you feel yourself losing control, I'm not going to lose control. James.
Oh, okay.
Gave up everything for her.
Does he still have the scarred face?
When her secret finds its way out, there'll be the death.
Yeah. I enjoyed Christoph Waltz in the last movie.
James Bond. License to Kill.
That's my favourite Bond theme right there, actually. License to Kill.
I could be speaking to my own reflection.
Oh.
Only your skills die with your body. Mine will survive long after I'm gone. History isn't kind to men who play God.
Oh, the mask's cool. I love that white mask. That's a really cool look for a villain. What is it with the Man of Steel drums, man? Like, I can't unhear that. It's all over this trailer. That's cool. That's cool. That's Bond. Yes. Oh, that theme. My God, that Bond theme. Easily one of the best pieces of music in cinema. Wow. Yeah. No, that looks good. I just realized that comment may have been on screen the entire time. I really hope we were screen sharing there. Can you guys let me know if we were screen sharing? I think we were. If anyone's watching, please let me know if you could see the trailer right there, if you could hear it okay and everything like that. This looks a darn sight better than the last two movies, hands down. Now, I know it's easy to piece together a trailer. How long was Spectre? I remember that movie being like obnoxiously long. Okay, so it was 148 minutes, so 2.5 hours. That felt like the very max length that a James Bond film should be. I think you could easily cut it down to like 2 hours, bang on the dot. But I'm liking the look of this. The action looks really, really good. I like that they're advancing the story from Spectre. That's actually one thing that I do like about these ones, actually, is that the other James Bond, pretty much any James Bond film, you can just sort of throw on and just watch it as a single entry, which is fine. And it feels very episodic. It feels very just like, you could be scanning through your DVD collection and just go, let's watch Goldfinger right now, or let's watch Moonraker right now, or something. And you don't really have to have watched all the other ones to understand it. It's a brand new adventure every single time, and that's fine. With these new ones, and we first saw this with Quantum of Solace, it continues right after the previous one. Now, we've had a 5-year gap between this and Spectre, and I'm not sure if that's going to be a 5-year gap in the actual narrative of these James Bond films as well. But Claudia says, but the comment was there the whole time. I'm really sorry about that, guys, if that was really distracting. If the comment was on screen the whole time, that was my bad. I forgot to turn it off. I really hope that didn't detract from the reaction. So sorry if it did. It won't happen again. I'll make sure I'm more hot on that next time. But yeah, I like how these newer ones are sort of continuing a character. It's a character arc for Bond. It's a story that is continuing from film to film. So when this is all said and done, you're going to have like your neat little sort of 5-movie series within the James Bond 25 film franchise, but you're going to have that 5-film franchise that you can watch as sort of like a complete thing, which is really cool. And I don't know if, this is Daniel Craig's last movie. I'm not sure if after Daniel Craig has left and we get the new Bond in, if they're going to pretend it's the same character. How I think they should do it, if either they scrap everything and essentially reboot the franchise, like you could kind of view, it's meant to be the same character, but you could view each new James Bond as almost like a soft reboot in the entire series. I view Casino Royale as a straight up reboot. Yes, you did have Judi Dench returning as M in the film, probably because she was so great. You could argue it's a soft reboot because of her inclusion between the two, but it's kind of like the Joel Schumacher Batman movies, right? Completely different tonally, different Batman, just completely different, like bright, vibrant. It doesn't look anything like the previous two, but you still had Pat Hingle as Commissioner Gordon, and you still had Michael Gough as Alfred. So you had that connective tissue between the previous two, but for all intents and purposes, it was almost like a reboot of the franchise. That's kind of how I see the James Bond films. And especially with Casino Royale, going back to his first mission and, him getting into the game and learning not to trust anyone and everything like that, it definitely felt like a beginning that has set up this new Bond franchise. After Craig leaves, if they get someone else in, either they can just have him play James Bond again. I think the most sense is to go with the fact that 007 is a code name, which it kind of looks like they're setting up with this one. I don't know the name of the actress, forgive me, but the one who says she's another 00 agent, who was the one where there was this whole big controversy. And I do think that the fault of that was articles and clickbait articles. Now I know the truth of it. Maybe there was some truth to it. Maybe they did want to go with a female Bond afterwards when the backlash, they changed their mind. Or maybe it was just completely misconstrued and there was a breakdown in communication there. She's playing another 00 agent. She's not specifically playing 007. At least I hope she isn't. If this gets to the end of the movie and say Daniel Craig dies and then she takes up the mantle as 007, I am going to fucking hate that. I am going to hate that so much, but I don't think they will. I don't think many people will return to the property of James. Well, it won't be James Bond, will it? Like, you're fundamentally changing the character at that point. I don't see them doing that. I think that will rub people up the wrong way. And I think they'll lose a massive majority of their fan base if they do change that. But I could see them keeping the code name. If he dies in the field of duty, for example, someone else can be drafted in with that 007. If they do that, though, I don't see them bringing in the new actor at the very end of the movie. If they have, that's the greatest kept secret ever. But I think that a secret like that would come out and people would know immediately who it is. So they'll probably end it. open-ended, and then they'll decide on casting who they want as their next James Bond in the next 2 to 3 years or however long it's going to be, and then they'll rush out the next one with a new James Bond. I think that's probably the best way to go. But no, I'm really digging this, actually. We don't get much Rami Malek. We see the guy with the mask, who I'm assuming is Rami Malek's character. Looks very interesting, looks very different to any James Bond villain that we've seen before. You know, we've had some colourful, wacky ones like Jaws back in the day. Pardon me, even Blofeld back in the day as well. We've had a lot of James Bond villains. We've had Oddjob as well. It's good to see Christoph Waltz back. I think he's going to be very much like a Hannibal Lecter character in this film. Not just the fact that he's behind a piece of glass the entire time, but I think he's going to be goading. He's going to be alluding to this other villain, to these other events going on. He's basically just going to be there to trash talk James Bond in a couple of scenes. But I forgot her name. Let me just double check her name. The character from the second movie, the scientist. Léa Seydoux, I think that's how you pronounce it. I know she's a French actress, and I'm not very good at pronouncing French words. Léa Seydoux, I think that's how you'd pronounce it. I'm not sure. It's good to see her return. He did drive off into the sunset. Now, I'd be completely happy if James Bond opened this movie with a brand new Bond girl in there, because that's James Bond. He gets through them very, very, very quickly. But it looks like they're adding to that story. There's more to it. Can he trust her? Like, he couldn't trust Eva Green's character in the first movie. She betrayed him ultimately, even though there was a love connection there. And then he sort of shut that part of himself out, which was a great inception for his womanizing, that he can just, go through women, just hot and cold running women constantly, and he doesn't need any attachment to them, at least just for one movie. But it looks like there's more story to tell here, and it looks very interesting in terms of the politics of the MI6 and everything like that. Is it MI5, MI6? I think it's MI6. Yeah, MI6. So I remember, you can tell that I don't know much about James Bond. You can tell I'm not a massive hardcore fan of this, but hopefully I'm doing okay. Be gentle with me, please, guys. Let's see. Seawood Man says that my screen is a bit too small to see my reaction. That's a good point. I think I've been full screening it now because I know that someone mentioned that they preferred full screen. Very quickly, let me just do a demo of what the screen could look like. Let me get it to a freeze frame that doesn't look completely hilarious from this film. So, okay, that's a pretty cool one. So if I do my reaction, I could have it like this. So obviously that's me with a fairly small screen, or I could have it like that. I think this one's probably better. Someone mentioned, though, that they preferred seeing the trailer full screen, but I mean, if you want to watch the trailer full screen, then go ahead and watch it. I think I prefer this one because then you get sort of a bigger version of me with my reaction, and you still get the trailer there. So next time, maybe we should do this. As I said, I'm still kind of new to these live stream reaction things. It's all done completely off the cuff, so I am learning as I go along. But if you guys prefer this, let me know if you prefer this setup. If you prefer this setup, this is the one that we'll run with from here on in. Let's see what else we've got. Claudia says, I guess I can stop sharing the screen now. Claudia says, I said the name of the actress that was 007 while Bond was retired. I thought Naomi Harris was, am I right in saying this? No, Naomi Harris is Moneypenny. No, this is the new chick who was the 00. Let me see if I can find it in the cast list really quickly. Lashana Lynch. Lashana Lynch, she's the one playing the new 00 character. So you guys are all in agreement that you prefer the second setup. We'll run with that then next reaction. Again, apologies. I know it was a James Bond one, and I know I've kind of messed it up with the comment over the top and the big screen. Whatever. Hopefully you guys could still hear me, and hopefully you've still got something from this discussion that we've been having here. Because I do love doing these. I actually really do love doing these live reactions because, yes, they're a bit longer than the normal ones of what I used to do, but it's great to get some engagement with you guys and talk about the film as I do it. Claudia said, yeah, right, the one from Captain Marvel. Yeah, her. She was the one who, again, like I really hope they don't make her the new official James Bond, because that's not cool. I'm not cool with that. But yeah, I think I've pretty much said everything I can on No Time to Die. I'm struggling to think of anything else to say. I love the Gatling guns on the car. We're finally getting gadgets. This was the thing that Spectre tried to do, and it felt really out of place. There was a moment where he has the Union Jack parachute, if I remember rightly. I can't remember exactly which bit of it is in the film. And that was like a classic Bond moment, but it felt so out of place in that movie. That felt like something from a Roger Moore Bond, right? That felt really campy and patriotic and British and everything like that. And, you know, with this Union Jack parachute. But in this really dark, miserable, somber, lifeless movie. And it just felt totally, totally wrong for me. So hopefully they get a bit of a better blend of it, I guess, in this one. But in all honesty, this trailer still does seem very in keeping with the previous entries in this sort of darker, more reserved tone they're going for. So I really hope after this one's said and done, I do want to kind of get back to a fun Bond. I want to go and see a Bond movie like Mission Impossible and be completely swept in. Obviously, James Bond and Mission Impossible are very, very different. Yes, they both deal with like secret agents and everything like that and end of the world kind of stuff. But, you know, there's that tradition, there's that gentlemanly quality to James Bond, which sets him apart from Ethan's character in the Mission Impossible films. But if they can get that kind of action and intensity and adrenaline rush that I get from the Mission Impossible films with that fun, sort of light-hearted quality to it, I think they're going to be going in a good direction with that. I kind of want to see them go a little bit lighter with that stuff, because not everything has to be dark and dreary and miserable, and certainly not James Bond. It needs to be escapist, it needs to be fun, and it needs to be all the qualities that every man should aspire to be. Let's see. Claudia says Spectre was boring, which should be forbidden in a James Bond movie. I know a lot of people that also thought it was very boring or were very divided and mixed on it. I think it did have some good elements. I like Christoph Waltz's Blofeld in there. I liked the ending with the Aston Martin car when he drives off. That was cool. I'm hard pushed to think of anything else. I did, however, think I might need to go back and watch it. I did think Spectre was better than Skyfall. Skyfall just absolutely killed me, and I can't even remember, apart from like the opening train sequence, I can't think of any other action beat in that movie that really grabbed my attention. Spectre at least had a little bit more action, I can say that, but it still was very, very boring and wasn't what I want. But we're coming up to half hour now. I think I'm going to round off now. I've done a lot of talking tonight on these two reaction videos. Again, apologies for all the technical hiccups in this one. I do promise to try and get those ironed out whenever the next trailer reaction is, whichever trailer it's going to be, whichever big one there is to talk about. Thank you to everyone that's been commenting. Claudia, SeaWorld Man. I know, oh God, what's your name? I've forgot McManus on the previous video. You guys are awesome. Thank you for tuning in all the time. We really do appreciate the support, and it makes it easier that I'm not the only guy talking on this when I've got someone to, you know, talk about stuff with. You guys are awesome, and I do appreciate you. So until the next video, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. And I guess shoot into the camera. Blood.